Alright guys, BludgerBoy here to take you behind the scenes of a level that I've created in the LittleBigPlanet 2 beta. Essentially, it's just a replica of Minesweeper. You can find this game on any Windows PC, and it's just a replica of that in LittleBigPlanet 2. Now, essentially what the player does when they start the level is they first come out of the checkpoint where this little center switch is activated, which drops this square here. Now that key activates all the squares on the board, and the board, each has a little microchip in it, like that one there. They're all little microchips, and the microchips will randomly spawn a board for each time that the player plays the game. No two boards will be the same. And essentially, the player will generate the board as soon as they come into the level, and these little magic mouths here just tell them the instructions, how the game works, how to play. And that right there is just the game end logic. Once the player finds all the squares that aren't mines, the game will automatically end and they'll go to the scoreboard, which is over here, which they can't get to because of this big wall that they can't walk past. So they have to beat the game to actually get to the scoreboard. Now I'm just going to start by showing you the squares themselves. These are the squares up here. The top versions are without the covers and the bottom versions are with the covers. Now I created the numbers first, and the numbers are just based off the old version of Minesweeper that you'll find on Windows XP or Windows 98. Pretty much all the versions of Windows before Windows Vista and 7 came along and changed the visuals a little bit. And essentially, I just created a very small piece of light matter, put the grid on small, then created a little piece of dark matter as small as it would go, and created these pixel by pixel to get exact replicas of what they look like in the PC version. And I got sprites and opened them in Photoshop and just went along pixel by pixel to create these, and the blank one's just blank, obviously. Now, and then once I created them, I made them smaller just so they would take up less space on the thermo, and just to make the game board a bit smaller because it was originally far too big. Now then I created the covers for them, and the covers are all the same except for the mine, which I'll get to later. Now, for each square that's got a number on it or that's a blank, you have this here. Now, this is a note. This is a new feature in LittleBigPlanet 2, and this allows you to just label things, which is really nice, because I can't see what the number is, so I just put a little label on it that tells me what number it is without me having to delete the cover or move the cover. And what we've got on here, that's a little tag. Now, tags are essentially... Tags in LittleBigPlanet 2 are what keys were in LittleBigPlanet 1, magnetic keys. They've renamed them to tags, I would assume, to alleviate confusion with level keys. So yeah, they're called tags now, and that's a blue tag. And that blue tag will correspond down here with this tag here. This is a blue tag sensor. And this senses those tags and is part of the end game logic. Once there are no more tags, once there are no more blue tags, the game will end. And just to make sure the game doesn't end instantaneously, because the board isn't spawned as soon as you spawn, and if it was like that then the game would just end instantly, I put a little sensor switch there, because you'll be in that thing when you win. So once those two are activated, that activates this AND switch. An AND switch, essentially, all of these inputs must be activated. In this case, both of these inputs must be activated for the output to be activated, which will put on a few timers, which will make a little victory noise. There's a little cheering noise through a speaker, and then this little thing will end the game and take them to the scoreboard, which is over there. Now, the squares are removed, or dissolved, or uncovered, if you will, via this. This is another tag sensor, and that's a magenta or pink or something like that. And what that will do, that will remove this cover on the square here. As you can see, the numbers behind it. And it will remove the square with this destroyer. Now this is another new thing in LittleBigPlanet, and in LittleBigPlanet 2. This will remove any material, anything it's connected to, and it will essentially make any material act like dissolved material without having it look like dissolved material. And it will just destroy this cover once it's activated by the tag sensor, and the tags are spawned by the mouse, which is over here. And the mouse is connected up to this controller in it, this direct control device. You can, when you click a square, a little tag comes out of the mouse for a brief millisecond. And once the tag comes out, it hits the tag sensor, and the tag sensor detects that tag and destroys the square. Not only does it destroy the square, but it also gives you a certain amount of points with this score giver. I think it gives you 100 points for removing that square, because that square isn't a mine. And then we head over here to the mine square and the mine cover. As you can see, that's a mine behind there. And I've put a little microchip on here. And microchips aren't what you may think they are. They're not actual logic themselves, they're just places to put logic. In that little small space, all this is there. So what this is another tag sensor. That's the same color as those tags. But this tag, not only will it destroy the thing, it will also lose 500 points from the player. And that makes an exploding sound, I believe, when you uncover a mine. Now this here is a little red tag, and that is going to allow me to count how many mines are touching each square, which will lead us to over here, to the board. And as you can see, there are 64 squares, and there's a microchip on each square. There's actually 2 microchips on each square. There's a microchip on each microchip, and I'll explain that now. Now this is the first microchip. What this does is this decides whether the square is a mine or not. This is a random sequencer, or a randomizer as it says there. What a randomizer does is essentially, as its name suggests, it picks a random thing. And I've set it to pick a random thing just once by using that override pattern. I don't actually want to override the pattern, it just works for a one-shot random generation thing. And what happens is I've got it connected to this emitter, which will emit a mine in that square, and this OR switch. Now I've got 5 things hooked up to it, to this OR switch, which will activate the second microchip, because the chances of spawning a mine aren't 1 in 2. If I just had it connected to the emitter and this microchip, and the microchip will spawn a number, if it was just 1 in 2, then half the squares would be mines, and the game would be ridiculously impossible to get any points from. So essentially, I've connected it to this OR switch, and an OR switch will activate when any one of those is activated. Only one of them has to be activated. 5 of them could be activated. 3 of them could be activated. It doesn't matter, so long as one of them is activated, this microchip up here will activate as it's connected directly. Now I'll show you a better example. That's a corner piece, but here's a middle piece. This is a bigger piece of logic here. Now this decides how many mines are touching that square. And as you can see, you've got lots of red tag sensors, and the tags on the mines themselves are also red, like that. And the tag sensor will detect all the tags that are in touching that square. Now, as you can see here, that's a lot of tags, so I'll just make it a different color just to show you just that one. It's quite slow, but it's a beta. There we go. Now that, as you can see, that outer ring is the maximum detection range, and that picks up all the squares that are touching the square that we're investigating at the moment. As you can see, that picks up all 8 of the touching squares. And the minimum detection range, just make sure we don't pick up the square itself, just in case a key spawns there for whatever reason. Now, what this will do, these detect different numbers of mines. And this detects 1, that detects 2, that detects 3, that detects 4, etc., etc. I've removed 8 simply because the chances of getting an 8 are so very, very low that there's no point having it there, and it cuts down on the thermo, which, as you can see, is quite full. And when everything's spawned, the thermo pretty much goes to the top, and if the thermo goes to the top, the mouse doesn't work, which I'll show you now, or later on, rather. But as you can see, that detects, they all detect different amounts of mines. That one detects 1, that one detects 2, that one detects 3, and etc., etc. These are timers, and this is just to make sure that it doesn't spawn different ones at once, because if there are 5 mines touching a square, say, it'll also pick up 4 mines, 3 mines, 2 mines, and 1 mine. So what I've done is I've hooked it up to this. This is a selector. And this makes sure that only one output is chosen. So even if 5 of these work, only one of them will actually work. And the priority, or the most important one is to the right. So only the input that's the furthest to the right will be on. So if there's 5 mines, yes, it'll pick up 4, 3, 2, and 1. But once they go through the timers, only the 5th one will be activated. These will also all be activated, but because of the timers, it'll activate the 5th one first. And therefore, none of these other ones will ever emit anything. Only the 5 will emit, if there are 5 mines touching a square. And that works the same for all of them. This one at the top picks up nothing. It's just directly connected to that OR switch. And that's just a timer to make sure that, just in case none of these activate, which means that no mines are touching that square, this one activates. That one will spawn a blank square, which means that no mines are touching that square. And as you can see, the first one here and the last one here are empty. That's just to make sure that nothing spawns before it should, because that is set as the default. You've got a default option here, which I don't like. Current state should really be, you should be able to toggle that as far as I'm concerned, but just to alleviate any errors happening, that's set to nothing. Nothing will happen until one of these is activated. Now that's on every single square. That makes 128 microchips on the board. And once the squares are all spawned, that all happens in a matter of seconds. Then we get over here to the mouse. Now the mouse is connected up to a controlinator, which is the direct control you've been hearing about. And that's it right there, that's the controller. Now what happens is, I've connected the analog stick, the left analog stick, to this advanced mover. The advanced mover essentially moves this mouse around like that with the left analog stick. And I've also connected up these 3 emitters. Now, the top emitter is connected to the X button. That emits a tag, a pink tag, that will dissolve the squares, as you saw earlier. It emits it just for a brief moment. You can see a red flash just so you know where you're clicking. And that's what that does. The square button's hooked up to this emitter here, and this one emits flags. Flags are just essentially for you to know where the mines are. So you can just place a flag on a square, and so you'll know where the mines are. It's not like actual Minesweeper, where if you right-click a square, no matter where you click on it, the flag will appear in the middle, and also if you click a square with a flag on it in the real game, the square won't dissolve. I can't quite do that here because of limitations with the thermo, but that just puts flags there. Basic functionality. This is hooked up to the circle button, and the circle button will remove flags. It spawns a green tag, and all the flags will have green tag sensors on them. The green tag sensors are hooked up to a destroyer on the flag, and the flag will be destroyed. So it's not there anymore. Now, once the player has found all the squares, they've uncovered all the squares that aren't mines, this will happen. Now, they're already in the controlinator, so they're within range of this. That's just a camera, by the way. That's what the new cameras look like. That's what the camera view is. And of course, once all the uncovered non-mine squares are gone, there will be no more blue tags, because all the blue tags on the covers will be gone. That will activate the AND switch, which will activate this timer. Now this timer just makes sure that you don't end the game immediately, so you can actually see the board for a brief moment and get this little sound effect, this crowd cheer. And that will activate another timer, which will end the game 2 seconds later, which will take you over to the scoreboard over here. You'll automatically spawn here. With that, you can also make it so that you just end the game instantly without going to the scoreboard. And yeah, that's how the Minesweeper level works. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments section below. But other than that, I'll catch you guys later.